And good afternoon, everyone. This is Jason Horejs, owner of Xanadu Gallery. I'm here with Barney Davey of artprintissues.com and barneydavey.com. I'd like to welcome you to the broadcast this afternoon. How are you doing, Barney?
Hi, Jason. I'm doing great. As always, good to be here with you on another podcast. This one is going to be fun, I think.
Yeah, I think this the topic of email is obviously a very important one, and I think we've got a lot of great information. So why don't we just dive right into it? As always, to begin, just want to go briefly over some of the logistics. This is a podcast as opposed to a webinar, which means it's a little less formal, a little less constrained, but you'll be able to participate in the same way. Watch our slideshow outline as it's presented. Listen to what we're talking about, and most importantly, ask questions. And you can do that in two ways. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should have a GoToWebinar control box, and one of the little boxes in there is your question box. Anything you type into the question box, we will be able to see. And then also, if you have a microphone attached to your computer, you can ask questions audibly. During the question and answer period, we'll tell you that you can come in and ask those questions, and we'll tell you how to do that at that point as well. We are recording this session, and so if you miss anything or lose your internet connection, know that within the next day or so there will be a link to the recording up on both of our websites. So with that, Barney, why don't we just dive right into the topic of email, and I thought a great place to start on this topic, if I can get to it, is a question, and that question is email obsolete? With all the social media options that are out there, websites, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, email you might think is looking a little long in the tooth, and I think a lot of people have wondered this, is email a viable way for me to market my work and sell artwork? And I would give a resounding no to this question. Email is far from obsolete and is still, in my opinion, one of the very best and most effective tools you can use to promote and market your work. What are your thoughts, Barney?
What you hope for is that your competitors believe that. Email is far from obsolete. If you look at your email has a tangible bottom line asset to your business. If you have a business and it has an active email list where people buy from you, that goes on your bottom line. If you're going to sell that business, you can't sell, hey, I've got 5,000 Facebook fans or 25,000 Twitter followers. That's worth zero. Twitter can cancel your account. Facebook can go out of favor. You own your email. Anything else you do on the internet outside of email with regard to social media is the equivalent of what's called digital sharecropping. That means you're farming Facebook's farm. Every time you bring in friends to Facebook, that's Facebook's followers, not yours. Keep that in mind. You're not their customer, and they can tell you what they want to do the way they want to do it because you're their user and you're not paying them anything for the service unless you're paying to promote your sponsors. So get that out of your, email is far from obsolete. I don't believe it will ever be obsolete. It'll be a long time in the future if it is.
And that's not to say that the other tools aren't valuable, that social media isn't valuable. We've talked about blogging and a lot of the social media, but I agree with you, Barney. I think that the opposite of being obsolete, your email marketing should be kind of the cornerstone of all of your efforts to keep in contact with your followers. And really, you think about Facebook or Twitter, someone has to make an active effort to even go on there, and I know when I'm using social media, sometimes I'll look at what my friends are posting, or if I follow someone, I'll pay attention to it, but the vast majority of the time, I'm not going to have any idea what's going on for most of the people that I'm following, whereas email, comes into an inbox and it's going to be dealt with. Now, that means that there has to be some caution in your emailing. We're going to talk about that today, but obviously it is a much more direct avenue to getting your information and what you want to say in front of your potential buyers. So let's jump in and talk about some of the the various aspects and considerations of email for an artist and someone in the art business. And Barney wrote a number of great blog posts on this topic, and we're going to include links to those in the resources. I basically based the outline of our discussion today on the topics that he posted in his blog. So we're going to cover these four things: building your mailing list, selecting what tools to use to keep in touch and get those emails out there, design, and content. And Barney, you'll let me know if I forget anything or miss anything.
There's so much more that we could talk about, but if we, in the time that we have, if we can just get to those points, then we will have laid a solid foundation for someone to start actively pursuing building a viable email marketing campaign or program for their business.
So let's start with the big one, building your list. And I think this is a big question. I received a number of questions from our listeners prior to the podcast saying, it's great. I know I should be emailing. I know I should be sending out a newsletter. But how do I build my mailing list? It seems kind of pointless and fruitless to be spending all the time and effort to put together a newsletter to send it out to my 6 followers that I have on my email list. It's hardly worth the effort. And I think there's some real validity to that. And someone who's asking that question, their first focus needs to be on building the mailing list. So let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can do that. And we'll just kind of work our way through here. Let's start with the question of who should be on your list. And Barney, why don't you take that first?
Oh, okay, sure. Who should be on your list are patrons, collectors, family, friends, followers, influential people in the art business that you know. And that doesn't include influential people in the art business that you don't know and you don't have permission to to send to, because that is not only bad business practice, it's illegal in the United States according to the 2003 Can Spam Act. You can't actively put somebody on an email list without their permission. And every email you do send out also has to have an unsubscribe, a way clearly unsubscribe, and it has to have your contact information, your mailing address. So keep that in mind. So it's basically anybody that can either buy from you or help you find people to buy from you.
Yeah, I want to just touch on a couple of the points that you just made about getting permission and making it easy to unsubscribe. I think that these are really critical, and I would encourage as you're getting into sending out emails, it's a good idea for you to go through and read the Can Spam Act, or at least a summary of it, so that you know some of the ins and outs and you're not inadvertently doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Making sure, as Barney said, that you're giving the address. In some ways, though, even though there's this kind of legal aspect to it with the Can Spam Act, it's really just a best practices. People are going to get just as irritated as you do if you're emailing them and they don't want to receive that email. And so I always, when we're sending out emails to our collectors, I make it exceedingly easy for people to unsubscribe. That's the first thing they see when they get an email from me, is that unsubscribe link. And that almost seems a little bit counterintuitive in marketing. You think, oh boy, I just hate to have people unsubscribe. But in a sense, what's happening when you give them that opportunity is your mailing list is filtering itself down to those people who are interested in you and who are most likely to interact with you and make a purchase. And that's exactly what you want. It doesn't do you any good to have a mailing list of 1 million people if not a single one of those people is interested in what you're doing. But if you have a list of 100 people who are highly interested in what you're doing, that's very valuable. So don't be afraid to lose subscribers by giving them that opportunity to easily unsubscribe. So how can you grow the list, Barney? That's the next big question.
In the sales business, there's an acronym for ABC. It stands for Always Be Closing, which is not a bad idea for artists. You should be always attempting to, once you're in a sales situation, throwing out trial closes out there. but that's a subject for another podcast. I use that same acronym for email marketing because I think it's equally important, and that is always be collecting. You should make it very easy for people to sign up. I think your opt-in form should be on every page on your blog and every page on your website, and it should be prominent, top right. That's where people look first. This is the most important thing to you. You're not doing this for your health. You're doing this because you want to get people to sign up for your list so that you can in turn send them information, and some of that information is, I'm doing something, I have some art that you might be interested, and so forth. It's not just to pound them with one sales letter after another, but the first thing is get them on your list, and so make it available. Put it should be in your email signature, on your business card, on any stationery that you send out, any press releases you send out. Make it easy. Ask for, you start asking. Become aware. This is important. This is job one. I have to do this. As you start working on it, it becomes more top of mind, and it's easier for you then to just find people. In a business meeting, if somebody hands you a business card, that is not permission to add them to your mailing list. You need to say to them, with your permission, I'd like to add you to my postal mailing list and my email list, and then after you do that, send them a message that says, you know, per our conversation, I've added you to my list. I hope you enjoy it. And another way you get people on the list is you want to get something, give something. What can you give people? I know you can't just give out free artwork, but you could be giving out note cards. You could be giving out discounts on shipping. You could be giving discounts on framing. You could provide a free hanging service for local people. You could offer a high-res download that somebody could make it small enough, maybe 4 by 6 or something that they can't blow it up into a giant 24 by 36 and make a great giclée print from it, but something that they could download and run on their computer, or that they could print and send it back to you and have you sign it and return it to them. Use your creativity here. There's all kinds of ways that you could be doing things for people. Maybe you have a recipe list that goes along with your art, or just anything that makes gifting somebody and enticing them, just make it a little bit more worthwhile, and you'll find that people are responsive to that.
And if you're, that's kind of the online option, and I definitely second what you said there, Barney, as far as making sure everywhere someone goes on your website, they've got an easy way to sign up. And then offline, again, it's everywhere you're going, you should be collecting artists who are participating in weekend art shows and festivals. Although it shouldn't be your primary goal, the primary goal should be sales, and you don't want to let email addresses get in the way of that. But you should certainly be giving everyone who's interested in your artwork an opportunity to sign up for your mailing list. Signing in your guest book. It's gotten to the point where when we have people in the gallery, we're more likely to ask them for their email address than their mailing address now, because all of our marketing efforts are slowly shifting to the electronic. We still do send out catalogs, etc., but we want to have both. If I'm going to have your mailing address, I'd also love to have your email address. And we're very careful to mention, we're not going to, we hold your email address in confidence. We don't share it with anyone, and we're only going to be sending you occasional notices of upcoming shows and events and information about the artists. And people are rightfully nervous about giving out an email address, and you want to do everything you can to reassure them that you're not going to use it in a way that they wouldn't appreciate.
Great point. You'll find if you read my email or my posts on it, I include a link for a QR code. That's that funny square-looking code with just dots on it. That's the equivalent of a barcode with dots instead of lines. What somebody can do with their smartphone is scan that QR code, and that takes them right to your email sign-up form, where they can just pop in their email address and name and sign up with their smartphone by just scanning that QR code. So if you have the QR code on your business card, maybe on the back of your business card or on some other promotional list, that's just another way where in the moment, somebody, would you like to sign up for my newsletter list? Yeah, do you have your smartphone here? Let's, boom, in a matter of a few seconds, right at that time, so nobody's having to put it off and do later. You can use QR codes, and that's just another way to think outside the box and be creative to start attracting people to your list. And some of these things interact with each other. And of course, if you're confident with your content, then it's easier to tell people about, especially in one-on-ones, why it would be helpful or why they will enjoy being on your newsletter list.
And also should mention, and we're going to be talking more in a few minutes about content of the emails that you're sending out, but if you're sending out good content, I would also encourage you to be sure and encourage your email recipients to pass the email along. They're not always going to do it, but if they find something of value in your email, maybe they'll think, oh, I've got a friend who might be interested in this, and forward it, and then also right along with that, include a link in the email itself for people to sign up for your email list. That's maybe not something natural to think of because you think, oh, I'm sending out this email, they're already a part of the list. But it's quite frequently the case that we'll have newsletters or invitations for shows that get passed along from one recipient to another. And so that is one way that we get quite a number of our signups for our mailing list, is that kind of viral effect of email.
Leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, take every opportunity. So then we get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty and the how. That's some of the how we collect names, but how do you get those emails out there? And an anecdote from my early days in email, I remember when, this must have been back maybe in the 2004, 2005, when we started getting really serious about using email as one of the primary marketing channels. And we'd just been collecting email addresses into an Excel spreadsheet at the time, and to send out an email, I would compose the email in my Outlook, and then I would copy and paste all of those addresses from my Excel spreadsheet over to the Outlook and send the emails out. And when our list was pretty small, well, even then it was a lot of work, but as our list grew, that became more and more cumbersome, and you run into limits. Your email service provider is going to limit you to a certain number of emails going out of your box, during a given period of time, and only so many recipients per email, and so we had to start looking for something pretty quickly to replace that. And let's talk about some of the various options that are available out there, Barney.
Okay. There are, first of all, I want to say this. I don't do what Jason did. Learn from his mistake. If you're gonna use email, then get an email service, because it will make your life so much easier. Not only can people automatically sign up if they click on your link and sign up, are they added to your email list without you doing anything. It's all proactive on their part. When they unsubscribe, likewise, you don't have to go. Jason, when you got an unsubscribe, you had to go back in that Excel list.
Exactly. Yeah, I had to do a search.
What a pain.
Yeah.
And hopefully you found it and it was spelled right, and so you didn't send it out and now tick somebody off. So they will automatically unsubscribe people who click on that unsubscribe list. They'll also put the unsubscribe in the footer of your email with your address, so you don't have to worry about including that. It's going to be just built into any email that you use with any of these email providers. I'm a believer in MailChimp because I just think you can't beat free. And they will allow you to have a list of up to 2,000 names that you can send out 12,000 emails to each month, and it costs you nothing. You just can't beat that. You would pay $25 to $50 a month for that from any other email
Constant
service.
Contact or
Constant
one of these
Contact,
other providers.
Aweber, or so, for my money, for artists just getting into the business who just getting into email marketing, MailChimp is the way to go. There are plenty of other iContact and Constant Contact and Express Email Marketing. All of them work, but you just can't beat free. And eventually, if you decide you want to move away from there, you can do that. Especially, it's not that difficult if you've got a track history. I've mailed 50 times on this list. Another provider's not going to give you a hard time about uploading a list that's foreign to them, because they will initially. If you go to a provider and say, I've got a list of 6,000, the first thing they're going to want to know is, where did you get it? How did those people get on your list? Well, how long have you been mailing to them? And then we're going to upload to them, and many of them will force you to send out a list inviting those people to
a kind of resubscribe, if you will.
Right, and that can cut down that list pretty dramatically. So if you build it up over time with somebody like a company like MailChimp, then porting it somewhere else, should you ever need to, won't be that difficult, because you'll have the proof that it's a legitimate list and not something that you just bought from somebody. Or I went to a trade show and my friend gave me the registration list. Amazing what kind of what people will do with it. So I totally believe that you need to have an email provider. I saw somebody in one of the questions asking about wanting to build an HTML kind of form. They provide you with that. They'll give you templates, so you can use their templates, or they'll give you a blank HTML form, which is equivalent almost of taking a Word document and putting your pictures here, putting your header here, and putting some content wherever you want it. So building the form isn't that hard, and once you get something together, then you can just copy. The next time you go do it, you're not going to have to recreate the wheel with that. You'll have that format ready, and you're just going to drop in new content into the same format. So you don't have to come up with all these different elements that you will when you first build your form, which just makes using a provider that much easier.
Well, and that's a great segue into the next question, which is designing the individual emails that you're going to be sending out. And like you say, Barney, the services will provide you with opportunities to do layout and try and make it as simple as possible. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be 100% simple and easy, and there's always going to be a little bit of a learning curve. But let's talk about some of the basic design principles that if an artist had these design principles in mind, they could go out and create a successful email to their clients. And for us, some of the basic kind of the nuts and bolts would include, one, I like to always have an image pretty close to the top of my email. When we're sending out an announcement for a show, or we've received a new piece of artwork that a client might be interested in, words are great, but if I can get that image into the preview pane of their email, they're far more likely to interact and engage with that and look at the rest of the email than if it's just a bunch of text. So I'm an advocate of including an image as close to the top as possible. You can't win all the time, because now a lot of the email clients don't even preload the images. You have to give permission for those images to load. But at least if I've done my best to get an image there, I've got a shot at getting it in front of them. I'd also encourage you to keep the design pretty simple. Your website, you're excited because you get to do all this layout, pick all the colors, and do backgrounds and borders and all that kind of stuff. Email is still so hit and miss. The email that I designed today is going to look very different in your inbox than it did in my design layout, unfortunately. And so it behooves you to spend some time simplifying, and if you can just get the main elements in there, the imagery or the content that you want to include, and keep the rest of the design fairly simple, your life is going to be much better. Your thoughts on design, Barney?
Well, I agree with you. Images are important. I just want to segue quickly. I saw somebody in the question box asking, were we saying MailChimp? And that's exactly right. Mail, like as in email, and chimp as in monkey. MailChimp.com.
Yeah, not like the man chimp, not like a You know.
No, right. MAIL, chimp.
Yes.
So, yes, images are important. In my post, I talk about a pre-header. You'll notice quite often when you get an email and you're using a client, whether it's like, well, say for instance Outlook, it'll show you the first maybe so many characters. I don't know what the limit is, maybe 250 characters or something like that, that gives the reader a glimpse of what's in the rest of the copy. So in my opinion, that is vastly important to you because it will help your open rate. Your open rate is how many people actually click on your email to open it, which is kind of discouraging in a way, but it's under 10% is on average. It's not really much different than direct mail in terms of response. People will sign up, with enthusiasm for your email list, but then their lives get busy and they don't have time, or whatever the reason is, they won't read each and every one of your emails.
Oh, that's why the email address collection and growing your mailing list is just so critical. It's going to be a small percentage that open and respond to what you're doing. So it's a numbers game. The more email addresses you have, the more likely you are to get to that magic number where a sale will happen.
Right. So going back to your email, my email client will ask me, do I want to see the images from this person and do I want to display them always or not on every email that I get from somebody, and it'll remember the ones that I want to see. But a lot of my emails, I just want it to load faster and I just want to read, so I skip the images. Of course, I never do that with Jason's email, but you have to think about it as a flow, and also how people are time compressed and jammed in the way they do things. So the pre-header entices them to open the email. Then the next part is using headlines to pull them through the copy. You don't write like you would like for a book or a press release or something. Probably not more than 2 sentences in any paragraph. Make them really digestible, bite-sized pieces, and probably not more than 2 paragraphs without some kind of headline that explains what the content is in the following paragraphs, so that somebody can almost skim read this email until they get a sense of, do I really want to dig into it, or do they see some key words in there that makes them stop and start reading it more intensely. But you keep the skimmers involved by having headlines that pop up frequently and that flow people through the copy, along with images. And I just read recently on a MailChimp site, there was one of the developers there has his girlfriend or wife has some kind of a quilting or craft business or something, and he was doing email for her. He found that through his own testing that putting one image versus putting a number of images, he got a dramatically better result on multiple images. So if you're an artist with multiple images to put up there, then use more than one image if you have them available to make your email stand out, and again, more visually interesting than one that just has just a single image on it.
Well, and so you've been giving me great segues today, Barney. That leads us right into the question of the content. What is it that an artist would be including in an email? What would be of interest to their audience? And the obvious ones are for an artist are, hey, I've got a new piece of artwork that I just finished. Here's an image of it. We've found that our best response rate comes from emails that have an image and have a story. So if we can include a story about how the artwork was created or what the artist's inspiration was, and sometimes that can end up being quite detailed and a good long read. But if I can engage the recipient of the email in that story and get them interested in the piece, and if I can include some detail shots and give them something of interest to look at, they're going to be more likely to buy. And I think it's also important that along with all of that, you want to include kind of a call to action. There's, this is a one-of-a-kind piece of artwork. If you're interested in it, you need to act now, because if you don't, someone else is going to grab it. Your thoughts on content, Barney?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all good ideas. Video content is becoming more important. YouTube is the second largest search engine, only to Google. People are using YouTube more and more to learn about all kinds of things. And I'm not a big fan for embedding videos into your email, because the clients of your readers are likely to shut that down because of the potential bad content. So what I recommend is taking a snapshot. If you've got a YouTube video, get a screenshot of the one shot. Maybe it's your opening screen or whatever, something that's got a really nice image, and then embed that as a JPEG or what have you into your email. And if somebody clicks on it, it will take them to a YouTube video. So that's just one way to get content. Another is to do kind of what I've done with this email marketing series, and I've done a number of these. I have another one, a 10-part series on being a successful artist, and I don't run them week after week after week, because I think it gets just nobody wants to read all about email every week. But I develop ongoing themes that I can't just explain or get into detail in 300 to 500 or 700 words. So on you, maybe that's tip for art collectors, or you might be talking about something of interest to you that you put your own perspective on, whether it's something in your local area, the way the historical art society is historically grown up in your area, or the famous people from your art area, or were you impressed by somebody? People, you can use this to become that kind of thing. I mentioned recipes earlier. If you bring in your own personality into this and don't just make it some kind of dry press release kind of thing.
And the same thing over and over and over again. You want to keep it fresh.
Yeah, and if you find things that people respond to, then take note of that and repurpose it later on. Oh, people like that. I have more I can add to that. I can come at it from a different angle. I can make it more relevant because it's been a while. You can use resources like the New York Times Art and Design, or HuffPost Arts and Culture, or Google Alerts to find great ideas or things that are happening in the art business, maybe that you're passionate about. Like it might be money for funding the arts, or why it's important to have arts in schools, or how arts are money driving sources for your region or your state. Or sometimes you might even write about your competitor. If you see your competitor doing something that's really unique, and maybe not just about their art, but something else that's beyond them, and possibly you say, Jason wrote a great post on there, and I was so impressed by that, and I want to follow up with my thoughts on it. So it isn't, you're not like you're copying Jason. You're just saying, I was inspired by Jason, and he had something important to say, and I have something to follow up on it. So rather than just commenting on his blog, which you might want to do anyway, but you use that as an idea. So there's just keywords. Think about what are people searching for. You can do keyword search through Google AdWords, Word Tracker, Google Trends. Find out what people are interested in, and then start thinking, how does that shape into a story? If you start capturing that information, you'll begin to see some patterns there that maybe aren't available to everybody, that you can find a really cool niche on. Or if you're in a niche, you're doing something for the Humane Society or the Orchid Society, or whatever, then there's all kinds of side stories there for you as well.
Well, and as you start focusing on creating content, the natural flow is, boy, if I'm going to be creating these emails, It's just naturally for me to adapt that then and go ahead and include it on my blog, and go ahead and post that blog to Facebook. So it creates a kind of, you know, it allows you to be cohesive in your marketing efforts through your social media and blogging and email, and you know, as it says here, content is key. So if you start focusing on, you know, spend some time each week figuring out some interesting content, as Barney was talking about, you or about other things related to the arts, and then post those to your blog and send them out to your email. This is certainly a long-term process. It's not as if you can say, I'm going to go become an amazing email marketer in a couple of weeks. It takes some serious time and effort to build your list and become an expert at formatting and layout and content, and then being consistent about it. It's critical that you don't just do it once or twice and then give up. You're not going to be successful at first. It's that simple. So make a commitment. I'm going to be sending out an email consistently for the next year. Which also leads to the question, Barney, how often do you think an artist or someone in the art community can safely send out an email without becoming obnoxious?
It depends on your content, but I think that if you do it less than once a month, your list goes stale. I used to think quarterly, but I think that's not. 90 days is a long time for your list to just sit there, and for people to even wonder, are they ever going to hear from you again, or anything like that. So I would shoot for I would shoot for once a month on average, and maybe you can't get there, like you were saying, Jason. You have to pace yourself with this. This is not a race. It's a long term, or if it is a race, it's a marathon or an ultra marathon. So think about. My goal is to do it once a month. Maybe I don't have the time right now, and I'm not as comfortable doing all these things on a regular basis, so I'm not as organized. It's going to take me longer. Maybe you do it every 2 months or every 3 months to begin with, but as quickly as you can, get up to doing it once a month. And then if you've got the content and you're getting response back from your audience, go ahead and ramp it up. You know, there's nothing wrong with sending weekly as long as you're sending out things that people are interested in having that come into their inbox and reading. And you can tell, you know, with your whatever provider you're using, you can see how your results are going. They'll provide you with a graph to show you how many people are opening your email versus the last one and the one before that, so you can see a trend in your own email. You'll know I'm reaching saturation point. I should slow down and maybe back off. But I would go once a month as a goal, and if you can jump into it right away, great. If not, ramp up into it and know that as you start writing more frequently and doing all the other little things that you need to do, they become second nature to you, and it's easier to
it becomes easier
crank these things
over
out.
time.
Right.
And obviously, if you are going to be participating in some kind of event, a show or an opening, you know, that's an excuse outside of your normal mailing to maybe reach out and invite people to attend the event outside of just the run-of-the-mill newsletter. Now the moment of truth. I'm going to launch a couple of quick poll questions. And the first one is, how many email addresses do you currently have in your mailing list? And just know that these are both of these questions are obviously kept anonymous. We just want to get a rough idea here. And while they're doing that, Barney, why don't we go ahead and start taking some of the questions that have come in?
Okay. Let's scroll back up to the top here and see if we can find one.
Teresa asks an interesting question. I'm going to take this one because it's kind of related to galleries. She says, if your art is sold through galleries, how do you get the names of those that purchase the art so you can connect with them? Boy, it would be great if you could. However, as in any business, really, the contact and the relationship is pretty sacred. And with the gallery, that contact is going to be between the gallery and the client. I do have some artists, though, who are active in emailing. And what they will do, even though I'm not going to give them the direct contact information of my clients, if one of my artists sends me their newsletter and I think there's something interesting there, or a new piece of artwork or a story that might be of interest, I'll then pass that along to my mailing list, and in that way you can reach out. So, Teresa, that might be an approach for you, is to say, send it to the gallery and say, this might be of interest to people who've bought my work. Would you mind passing it along to them? Now, of course, right along with that, it's often the case that you might have an image or a link to your website, and then you've potentially got the opportunity for that client to visit your website and sign up directly for your mailing list. But at least initially, the contact's going to be with the gallery as opposed to directly with you.
Makes sense. Did you want to go to the results, or should I jump on?
Yeah, let me. Why don't I go ahead and throw this up, and then we'll throw. I've got one more poll question. Okay, so it looks like we actually are right in the kind of the mid-range for most of the artists. We have a few who have over 1,000 names on their mailing list. A good number, a third of those of you who are in attendance today have between 250 and 1,000 names. So good for you. That's awesome. That's great. And then some who have between 1 and 100 and 100. 250, and so you kind of know what you want to be building toward. I met an artist several years ago whose mailing list had just crossed over 20,000 names. So,
wow.
Just to give you an idea, there's definitely always room for growth.
That makes me think that, coming back to social media and other things, whether you're doing on eBay or some other place, that those, you should be thinking about those places as funnels and ways to just help drive traffic back to your site so you can grab those lists.
I've thrown up another poll question there while we take additional questions. Did you have a question you wanted to take, Barney?
Yeah, I see this one. I read that someone signing your guest book, registry at a gallery or art show, and they give you their email, that they are implicitly giving you permission to send them email. Next step is to send them an opt-in list to get them officially on your list. Does this not sound like it does not sound like you agree with this? What I was saying is, if you get an email from someone and you have not gotten their implicit permission to add them to the list, you need to do that. You can send them a follow-up and say, I'd like to add you to the list, or send them just an opt-in. If they have given you implicit permission, they've given you implicit permission.
Yeah, which a sign up for, if you've got a guest book there that says, join my mailing list, that's implicit.
I would agree. That's implicit, but I also think it's courteous to just follow up and say, thank you for signing my mailing list. You can look forward to whatever. You might even have an autoresponder so that every time you add people from a list like that, they get a special email from you that says, here's here's my gift. Send here for some note cards or discounts or whatever it might be. Just, I would reply back, even if they have not with an opt-in, if you feel like they've implicitly replied. But so no, I wasn't disagreeing with you. There may have been some confusion about it.
Okay, and looks like the majority of us, in terms of frequency, are doing less than, let me get it up here, even less than bi-monthly. So I think there's some room for growth there in terms of being a little bit more consistent. And again, it just takes a commitment and then an approach and a plan to creating the content. And we talked about that before in the when we talked about blogging, that it's a good idea to sit down and, instead of having to come up with a new email every month or whatever, sit down once a year and map out all of your emails and blog posts for the year, so that then it's just a matter of sitting down and writing them out. Make it as easy on yourself as possible.
couldn't agree more with that. Anything you can do to automate and streamline what you're doing, the more likely you are to stick with it. If it's a total chore every time you go do this, it's hard to imagine you keeping up with it, which I think is what I'm seeing with the result of that survey there, that this is, people don't know what to send, or it's a chore so they don't do it, which means you're wasting your efforts of collecting an email list in the first place. Have a plan. Spend enough time with the software so that you become comfortable sending with what you're doing, so that it's a task that you can set aside a certain time of, maybe it's weekly or every 2 weeks. I'm going to spend an hour on this so that I get it down, so that when I'm ready to go, I'm not looking at a 5-hour project which I'm just going to put off and wait another month. Bite it off in smaller chunks. Get familiar with the software. And like Jason said, accumulate some ideas and commit to them on paper. Now you've got a plan that's going to make it easier to pull off and make you consistent doing it.
And I forgot to mention, if you'd like to come in and ask a question audibly, on the right-hand side of your screen, you've got a little yellow hand button. That's, in essence, what you're doing is raising your hand to let us know that you have a question, and then I can bring you in and unmute your microphone. And that doesn't always work, so if it doesn't, you can go ahead and type the question. And I've got, if you want to go ahead, if anyone has a question they'd like to ask audible, you can do that. Another question, this one came in from Kathy. She says, I'm a photographer, and I fashioned my email marketing around my photo trips, which occur about once a month or 2 months. Should I change my focus in order to do more frequent mailings? Well, I think, Kathy, that actually sounds like a great approach. You've got something that you're already doing anyway, and something that would very naturally have some interest, and that you could create a narrative around. And I think that frequency is just fine. And I would suspect that you have followers who are, they wish they could be on that photo trip with you, and probably look forward to getting those emails. And if you want to add something else, if you want to do those plus, maybe add another email every once in a while about a related topic, you could go ahead and do that. But I think that actually your approach sounds very good.
I do too. I would look to take, if you're doing a trip and you talk about the trip, probably something happened on the trip, or you met somebody on the trip that you can drill down a little deeper and say, I'm going to ask that person for an interview or for a blog post, or maybe during that trip you went to a museum or went to a fashion house, or whatever it is, that you can pull something out of what you did and make that the feature in between the trip. And that way, if you keep that up, you'll never run out of stories. Somebody asked about the QR code. You can go to x.co, and that's a URL shortener that's owned by GoDaddy.com. It's free, so you can take a long URL and put it in a shortener and get an x.co with some weird names, or if you sign up, they'll let you make a custom. Like you could go to, if you go to x.co Barney, you get to my email sign-up list. But another cool thing about x.co, when you go there, they will give you a QR code for the URL that you've made shortened. So you've got a URL shortener, and they'll give you they'll give you a QR code which you can scan or copy, and then use it for whatever purposes. So other than that, if you want to know more about QR code, just go to the Oracle. It's a thing called Google. They'll tell you everything you want to know about it.
Well, we've got many more questions, I think, than we have time to answer. And as usual, we've kind of run up to the end of our time here. But I really appreciate everyone participating in the conversation this afternoon. And I'm looking forward to hearing that you've implemented your own email marketing strategy and that you're working on building your list. Before we go, we've got just a couple of quick things. Barney, you have just released a new book.
I have.
Talk about it.
Okay. I've been watching artists for years now struggle with how to solidify their career in a way so that they're not just banged around by changes that they don't have any control over. Galleries going out of business, or MySpace just falling apart, or whatever. And I've come to the conclusion that the best way for artists to make bulletproof their career, as it says on the cover, is to build a loyal following of people who buy direct, collectors who buy direct from them. And that's the basic premise of this book. I talk about it in depth, how to help you identify, find the right collectors. And then I don't believe you want to abandon anything else that you're doing. I love the gallery system. I love social media. But they should be secondary to everything else that you're doing, which is the average artist can, if they're a painter, for instance, can paint about 1,000 pieces in a lifetime. That's 30 pieces a year over 30 years. You're still not at 1,000 pieces. I contend if you can build a following of 100 collectors, which is something you can wrap your arms around, they will buy probably a third of your work, because they're going to buy multiple pieces, or they'll introduce you to other people who will buy even more of their work. They can make you immune to changes in the marketplace that will keep you whole in bad times, and make you a leader in good times. And that's essentially what the book is all about. You can read it. Just go to barneydavey.com and find out more about it.
Yeah, it's exciting. Just released within the last week or so here, so a brand new resource for artists. I also have a brief announcement, and that is that we've just launched our Starving to Successful mentorship. This is based on my book, Starving to Successful, which is a guide for artists to build better relationships with galleries, get their work out there and seen and sold. And I'm kind of excited about this mentorship program. I'm constantly being asked if I do coaching or one-on-one advisement for artists, and unfortunately, because I have such a crazy schedule, that's typically not possible. But what I've realized is there's an opportunity where there's so much interest in doing that. And so what I'm doing is there will be one mentorship opportunity. You can go to our website at xanadugallery.com/mentor. I'll put that up here. And what this will entail is I'm going to select one artist who will receive 1 year of coaching. This will be intensive coaching. We're going to go over an evaluation of the artwork, the quality of the work, assess where their career is and where they want to go, what their goals are. And then I'm going to basically, step by step, we're going to walk through building a more successful career and relationships with galleries, and revising your artist statement and biography and all the kind of details that an artist needs to work through. And then it's going to culminate in a one-person show here at Xanadu Gallery in Scottsdale. Now, that's great for that one person who's selected, but it's also going to be a great opportunity for everyone else who applies, because they will be able to sit in on the mentorship sessions, follow along what I'm doing with the one artist who is selected, and hopefully apply those same principles to their careers to go out and build those better relationships with galleries. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, to read about it and learn more and apply, you can go to xanadugallery.com/mentorship. Barney?
That's gonna be truly exciting, Jason. I'm going to be following along just to, I'm excited to find out how that's going to work out. I know it's going to be successful. I'm just really thrilled that
yeah, it's going to be fun.
This.
A little bit of, this is our first time taking this concept, and so there's going to be, it's a little experimental at this phase, but I think there's some great opportunities. And, it's one thing to talk about all of these principles, but what I'm excited to do is actually put them into practice with an artist and help them do that, and so that they can see the results in a consistent way. So I'm looking forward to having you all join us for that as well. And again, cool. We've run out of time as usual. We've gone a little bit over, but it's been a great topic. And as I say, I'm looking forward to hearing how you apply what we've talked about in your art business, and hopefully become more successful in your email marketing.
Sounds good. Let me just throw in quickly. I saw one question from David about my book. It's available as an ebook and a paperback. You can buy it on Amazon if you don't want to go to my website. So
Perfect. Well, thank you again, everyone. It was an enjoyable afternoon with you, and we'll be back again just about a month's time to do another podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, Barney.
my pleasure. Take care, Jason. Peace out, everybody.